Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming today. Sorry I was a little late getting started, but this room's impossible to find. How's everybody enjoying the summit so far? Good? Excellent. Yes, I'm having a good time as well. Well, my name is Walter Bentley. I am a cloud solution architect at Rackspace, and I'm here to kind of talk about a topic that to me is kind of near and dear to my heart. My background is I spent 15 plus years in production support. So I was the guy that got handed that OpenStack cloud that the leadership decided to buy. And the guy who had to now either try to make some standards and make some decisions around what to do next with this OpenStack cloud. This is just some information about me. I am a New Yorker, but I just moved to Houston, so I'm calling myself a New Yexan. I'm going to coin that term. I'm going to keep it for myself. Obviously, I say the word cloud about 100 times. I'm a big cloud advocate. I believe in cloud. And hopefully I present some information that is useful to you guys today. And oh yeah, by the way, this is my Twitter handle. Feel free to follow me or send mean marks to me on my through Twitter if you wish as well. So some of the talking points that I want to kind of go through today is some of the things some of the decisions you're going to have to make now that that cloud has been delivered, and some of the day-to-day options that you're going to be presented with. Review some of the automation considerations you're going to be faced with. I normally would step through a demo at this point of some of those considerations, but we're not going to do that today for obvious reasons. But we will talk about them, and we will talk about how we can solve for those and how I've solved for those with some of our customers. And then the last thing, something I call that DevOps, administration DevOps state of mind, that mindset that you have to actually change from when you're going from having a virtualization platform to more of a cloud platform, which obviously OpenStack will fall into. So we jump right in. So this comic to me is the best way of kind of explaining what happens when you first are bringing a cloud into a company, and hopefully you won't lose your cloud and not be able to find it again. But this is exactly what happens. Your leadership, you convince your leadership finally to go with OpenStack. They purchase it, it's delivered to you, and now you're like, well, what am I supposed to do with this thing, right? You know what you would like to do with it, but how do I get started, right? So now that you have this cloud, now what? And this word cloud here just is a very brief example of some of the many decisions you have to start making. Am I going to do continuous delivery? Am I going to do infrastructure as code? What about projects, images, flavors, regions, availability, applications, isolation, security? Am I going to use the API? Am I going to use the CLI? Like, it begins to come down to all of these questions. I mean, all these decisions you have to make and all these standards you should probably put in place before you start consuming that cloud. But the way I kind of look at it is some advice that I just wanted to offer up as far as the things you should do before you get started. And hopefully by doing that, you'll have a concrete standard that you can go with if you don't have an enterprise architecture organization in your company. So you can kind of create some of those standards for yourself. So first thing that I give as far as advice around it is you need to use some level of automation with OpenStack. If you're not using some sort of level of automation with OpenStack, then you're really not going to get the full benefits of what OpenStack can offer you and your organization. So that's the first thing. But around that, creating a plan that has goals, objectives, and planned outcomes of what you're looking for out of that cloud is probably the beginning, right? So knowing exactly what you plan to use that cloud for, what is the intended outcome that you would like to have, and be able to set those goals so that you can show your leadership that, hey, this is what I set out to accomplish, this is where we are within that, and so that they can kind of gauge how the progress is going. The next thing is making framework decisions. And I know that sounds pretty obvious. You guys look like you're really smart and tech-savvy individuals, but making those framework decisions ahead of time is very important. And then the key part of it is not just making those decisions, but sticking to those decisions, right? Because what happens is over time, you may get adjusted to it, and you start to slip, and you start to make adjustments, and you make provisions for people to do specific things. But what happens is you then lose control. And by losing that control, you then actually fall into the third bullet, which is you won't have some sort of code consistency. So code consistency within automation is key. Primarily not just for yourself, but what if you actually had to give your automation code for another engineer, particularly a new engineer joining your company to run? If the code is not consistent, if you do things one way and then do things completely another way in another set of code, it's nearly impossible for that person to adopt it, right? They won't want to use it. So adoption of your automation or your automation code comes with having consistency and comes with being able to make those framework decisions ahead of time. And it's just some of the possible considerations I just listed. This is not obviously all of them. There's many, many more. But when you're talking about automation and some of the considerations, am I going to define my environment variables for my automation code? How am I going to go about doing that? Am I going to define them globally? Am I going to make them be assigned per host? I mean, there's a lot of decisions around that. So picking which way you want to go is actually really important. Am I going to use the OpenStack API or am I going to use the CLI to do my automation, right? Because you could go either direction, believe it or not. If you're going to create an application, you probably want to consume the APIs. But if you're going to do something with Ansible, you may consume the CLI. So again, it's a decision you have to make, and these are just some of the things you had to think through. Where to place, where to run the code from. So if you're going with something, some sort of automation code, are you going to run it local to the server? Is it going to be remote? If it's remote, how is it going to gain access to that server? Is it going to be on the same network? So again, these are all the things as far as around automation that you have to kind of consider before moving forward. So this is where I would normally demo some opportunities of how you can automate doing things with OpenStack with Ansible. I'm not going to do that today, but what I am going to kind of do is talk through how I've kind of approached it with some of my customers. So I work for Rackspace. I help customers build private clouds. And the idea is that once they get that private cloud, they usually come back and say, well, now what am I supposed to do with it? Ansible happens to be my choice of automation code, right? Doesn't mean that you have to go with that. There's Puppet, Chef, SaltStack, right? You may go even further and do more of a OneOps, which is a cloud orchestration, or any of those other guys, right? It doesn't limit you, but the idea is that I go in with this visual approach of me as a cloud operator. I can use some sort of automation tool below. Off to the left, you would partner up with your dev, partner up with the infrastructure individuals, and you would get together and write that automation code. And then you can then take that automation code and manage your having a programmatic or automated way of handling something like that. The next scenario that I just kind of like to throw out there is what if you were tasked with creating 50 users and 50 tenants or projects? Now, mind you, it's no big deal, right? You can go on Horizon and click through Horizon and create 50 users and create 50 tenants, and I'm not sure how long it'll take you. And the same thing, you can do it with the CLI. But keep in mind that you have password standards that you have to meet. Keep in mind that you're never given advance notice, right? So it's usually a very tight timeline. And then, of course, you want to be able to avoid mistakes and typos. So again, this is another situation now where you can take some automation code and be able to handle something like this in a much faster pattern. So this DevOps state of mind, administration DevOps state of mind. So very quickly looking at it, this is how I kind of envision the cloud lifecycle from a cloud operator standpoint. And you start off to the left from the discovery and you work your way over to the end where you get to support. And then you keep reiterating back through when you're dealing with capacity planning and security, right? This is times. right? So if you have to do a task once, why not automate it? Because you're going to do it again as a cloud operator, I guarantee you. And the other things here, and I know I'm running short on time, is influence the application design as much as you can. And try to influence it in a way that makes sure that those applications are created in a cloudy way, right? That they can scale horizontally, that it's designated to consume disposable resources, that they have a share nothing approach. And I know that's very difficult in certain circumstances, but you can do a lot of things in a stateless fashion. Having it in a DevOps model, and of course, the last one, built to expect failures, right? Applications are going to fail. But if you design your applications to fail in a graceful manner, or not totally fail, but maybe one component fail, you actually will still have some further stability within your system. Again, thank you very much for your time. Really quick plug, we're giving away free books at the Rackspace Cantina across the street. So if you're interested in any OpenStack books that are out there, we probably have them to give away, so feel free to stop by. It's open to anybody to come by and grab a free book. And of course, I have to plug the Rackspace Cantina because I work for Rackspace, sorry. Just the way life works. Right across the street from the convention center, feel free to come by for free Wi-Fi, drinks, rest and relax, enjoy yourself. But thank you again for your time today, guys. I really appreciate it.